My dear friends, as you see, we are still in the period of the pandemic, but I hope it'll be letting up soon. And we are back in what is my usual studio, which is a library room in the building in which I live. And I am already dressed differently. I think I want to signify thereby that we're in the last stretch of this pandemic, and we are soon going to get out of it completely. So I wish everybody good health and enjoy your families, and we'll be able to get back to our normal activities, I hope, very soon. Today is Thursday, February 25th, 2021, 5781 in the Jewish calendar. And I didn't start by drinking coffee because today is a Ta'anit. Today is a day of fasting. It is called the Fast of Esther, Ta'anit Esther. Why? Well, Esther was the queen of Persia many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, over 2,000 years ago, and she saved the Jewish people. I don't want to repeat the story of Purim. I think we all know it. We know that somehow she was selected to be the queen, the wife of Ahasuerus, who was the king at that time. And thanks to her, really, we were saved. What happened? There was a man by the name of Haman who wanted to destroy all the Jews. Somehow, maybe because he didn't like Mordecai. You know the story. I don't want to get into the story. But the fact was that the Jews were going to be killed. And it says in the Megillah, Mina'ar ve'ad zaken. It was for old people, for young people, for everybody. Every Jew was going to be killed. Why? Because this Haman was going to contribute to the treasury that apparently was depleted at that time, the king's treasury. He was going to give him some money, and he would get the permission to kill all the Jews. What happened then? Mordecai, who knew what was going to happen, went to speak to his maybe cousin, maybe wife. It's not very clear exactly what the relationship between Esther and Mordecai was. For sure, they were cousins. And he goes and he tells her, you're the queen. Go and ask the king to rescind this terrible edict that was issued against the Jews, that we're going to be killed. How did they decide upon the date? Some kind of flipping a coin, a lottery. That's what Purim means. It's a lottery. And it fell out on a certain day and they were going to be killed. So Queen Esther replies, listen, the king has not called me. Even though she was his wife, she couldn't come before the king whenever she wanted. She had to be invited in order to come in the presence of the king. That was the arrangement in those times. So Mordecai tells her, listen, my friend, you were selected to be queen probably for this purpose. You know, it's up to you. And if you don't help us, somebody else will help us. Queen Esther decides she's going to go before the king. And she asks all her servants, and she asks the Jewish people, fast for me 3 days, so that God will somehow give success to my mission before the king. So everybody fasted for 3 days. So my question is, do we fast on the day before Purim because Esther fasted for 3 days? Well, if it was for 3 days, why don't we fast 3 days also? But there is no really record of fasting for 3 days. All our fast days are really 1 day, and the most solemn day of the year, Yom Kippur, is 1 day. So why should we fast for 3 days? And something else really, why should we commemorate her fasting? What we have to commemorate is the result. She was successful? Okay, so let us celebrate Purim. Why do we have to fast on that day? You know, I have a strange feeling, and every year I repeat the same thing. Purim is a very joyous holiday, very joyous. There is even an instruction to get drunk. You should get drunk. You shouldn't be able to tell the difference between Mordecai and Haman. Blessed Mordecai, cursed Haman. You should be in another world. Why? Why should you get out of reality? I think because Purim has a double message. It has a message on one hand of lottery, that we were saved by chance, my friends. By sheer luck were we saved. I think it was the poet Heinrich Heine who once said, what if this Esther had some kind of pimple, big pimple on her nose? The king wouldn't have picked her. You know what? By sheer chance. Was she the most beautiful lady in Persia? Maybe yes, maybe no, but the king, she somehow fell into the good graces of the king and he selected her. What if she would not have been selected? What would our lot have been? Lottery. We would have lost everything. Everybody would have been killed, assassinated. So in a sense, I think the fast day is also to remember that we tried assimilation at the time of Purim, and that didn't work. So a fast day is not abstinence from food and drink. That is only superficial. A fast day means introspection. It means teshuvah. It means go back to your roots, really. Be sorry for the things that you did wrong. You have to make amends. You have to do something new. It isn't just letting your appetite grow and without being satisfied. That's not it. It is really teshuvah. So in a sense, we fast that day, not because Esther fasted 3 days, but because our ancestors were going to assimilate, and that's the wrong path. They, at the end of the story, it says, Kimu vekiblu. They once again sort of returned to the Torah. They once again accepted the Torah again. Because our ancestors say that in the first time when they were at Mount Sinai, there is one midrash that says that God picked up the mountain and said, either you accept the Torah or you die here. So they said, Naaseh v'nishma, we're going to do everything you say. But this time it was strictly voluntary. This time they realized that the path of assimilation wasn't taking them the right place. So in a sense, Purim, we get drunk because by chance we were saved. But we were saved. How were we saved? Esther said to the king, please do something. They're going to kill us. Haman fell in disgrace because the king loved Esther. And Esther said, I'm Jewish. He's going to kill me too. So what did the king say? Well, I'm sorry. I already issued a decree that in such and such a date, the Jews can be killed. There is no way I can change my mind because I am an absolute ruler. Whatever I say is so. I don't know if that is so, but that's the argument he used. So she insisted, you know what? Let's issue a second decree. What was the second decree? Allowing the Jews to defend themselves, to take up arms and defend themselves. You know why the Jews were victorious in Purim? Because they took up arms. We know today there's Tzahal, the armed forces of Israel, how they respond when there is danger. Of course, during the Holocaust, we had no means of defending ourselves. But when we are given the possibility of defending ourselves, we certainly know how to do it. So we had a tremendous victory. The enemies of the Jewish people weren't victorious. We were victorious. That's why we celebrate Purim. Why don't we say then, thank you, God, for what you did? Thank you how? There's something called Hallel, which is a group of psalms that are said on the 3 holidays, Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuot. Why don't we say Hallel, thanking God? Just like on Pesach, we were liberated from slavery, we went through the Red Sea, and we sang a song of gratitude to God. We say Hallel in the synagogue all 8 days of Pesach. So why don't we say Hallel also on Purim? Well, the answer is, Hanukkah, which is another similar story to Purim. I don't want to go into that. Then we say Hallel, but on Purim we don't. The answer is supposedly because Hanukkah happened in Israel, but Purim happened outside of Israel. Well, Pesach also happened outside of Israel, and still we say Hallel. Why don't we say Hallel on Purim? I'm not too sure. But let me think with you. After the Jews crossed the Red Sea, they were freed from the Egyptians. The Egyptians couldn't catch them anymore. Now they were in the desert. They had to survive the desert. Eventually, they entered the land of Israel and conquered it. But what happened in Purim was not the end of the story. After they were victorious, Ahasuerus was still the king. Maybe the following year he would change his mind, and another Haman would come up and would give him more money, and he'd say, you know what, let's kill the Jews anyway. The story didn't end there. The idea is that on Purim, we remained in Galut. And every night at the Seder and Pesach, we say, Bechol dor vador omdim aleinu lechalotenu. In every generation, somebody tries to annihilate us. Listen, today, is there any other nation in the United Nations that is being threatened with annihilation? Only Israel. And who is doing it? Persia again, Iran. That's the same thing. Khamenei, he is the Haman of today. He says we have to blot out Israel from the map of the world. So in a sense, Purim is not conclusive. It is inconclusive because we remain in diaspora and we still have to confront all kinds of threats and dangers that the Jewish people has to face throughout the generations. But on the other hand, we're alive, so let us thank God. We're going to rejoice this Purim. Thank God there is a state of Israel today, a place where we can go and be sure. Thank God for what he did for so many centuries in the past. And the proof of the pudding is, even though Bechol dor vador omdim aleinu lechalotenu, even though in every generation they tried to annihilate us, many of those that tried are no longer here. Yet we, the Jewish people, are still here. So let us celebrate Purim, knowing that God will never abandon us.